So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are staying safe. So guys, Errol Spence gives the boxing fans some good news. Basically, Errol Spence has said that he's looking for a Terence Crawford fight after he feels he beats Manny Pacquiao. So he wants a Terence Crawford fight, or he's going to tell Haymon that he wants to move up to 154. So really, there isn't any other option out there for Errol Spence. He's made it clear that he wants to fight Errol Spence, which is Terence Crawford, which is obviously good news for us boxing fans, because that means we're a step closer to that undisputed fight, and we're a step closer to the fight that we all want to see, which is Terence Crawford v Errol Spence. Obviously, that's the fight that we as boxing fans want to see, and I think that's the fight all boxing fans want to see. I think that's the biggest fight, or biggest, in my opinion, from a competitive standpoint, is probably the fight that we all want to see in boxing. Unfortunately, I've got the feeling that fight is never going to happen, because I believe Crawford's going to move up. I still feel that it's going to be difficult to make the fight, because it's just Spence talking. Now, he may want something, but the only way he's going to get it is if he decides to go 50-50 with Crawford, and we all know that's probably not going to happen. So how is that fight going to be made? Is Terence Crawford going to swallow some pride? Is Errol Spence going to swallow some pride? I'm not sure, but I don't think it's going to be that easy to make that fight, if I'm honest with you. As it just being Errol Spence saying that I want the fight, because, like I said, I think the split's going to play a big part. It's great news that Errol Spence wants that fight, and he wants to become undisputed, and he wants to fight Terence Crawford. The problem is, though, there's a great chance that they're not going to be able to come to terms. Now, Errol Spence, if he really wants that fight and he really wants to be undisputed, he can make it happen. Of course he can, because he can agree to the 50-50 split, and then the fight happens. I don't see Terence Crawford accepting, even though I do think now, if Errol Spence was to beat Manny Pacquiao, he would deserve the lion's share. I don't think there's any way that Terence Crawford would agree to anything less than a 50-50 split. So I don't really see Terence Crawford taking anything but 50-50. So are they going to come to terms? I'm not sure whatsoever. But it's great news. It's great news that Errol Spence wants the Terence Crawford fight. Obviously, it's a step in the right direction. Now it's just about them coming to terms, which isn't going to be easy, of course, because they both have a different opinion of what they think they're worth. Errol Spence has an opinion of what he thinks Terence Crawford's worth and what he thinks he's worth. Terence Crawford has a different opinion on what he thinks he's worth. So I think it's a case where they have to come to an agreement. Terence Crawford doesn't believe Errol Spence is worth 70-30, and Errol Spence don't believe that Terence Crawford is worth 50-50. So they're gonna have to come to some kind of term, some kind of agreement. Otherwise, we're probably not gonna get this fight. If I'm honest, I think the terms are gonna be the biggest thing. I think that to come to terms is gonna be what's gonna be the hardest thing to make this fight, if I'm honest with you. I really want to see this fight. I think we all want to see this fight. I think we all want to see Terence Crawford fight Manny Pacquiao. First, I will say this. Errol Spence has got to get past Manny Pacquiao. That's by no means a foregone conclusion. A lot of people may think that Errol Spence is overlooking Manny Pacquiao by making those kind of comments, but I just think he's stating what he plans to do. He's letting the fans know what he wants to do. He wants to beat Manny Pacquiao and then fight Terence Crawford, which is obviously, like I said, a great step in the right direction, because Errol Spence is showing that he wants to fight. He won't be undisputed if he doesn't fight Terence Crawford. He can't be undisputed. If he doesn't fight Terence Crawford, then Errol Spence won't be an undisputed champion, and he'll only be one belt away from doing that. And Errol Spence has always said that he wants to be undisputed. Timothy Bradley said that it's all on you, Errol Spence. If you beat Manny Pacquiao, will you do what you said you were going to do and fight Terence Crawford? Because that's what you said you were going to do. So now the ball's in Errol Spence's court. I believe he's the A side. He's the one that's going to dictate the terms. And what I mean by that is, if he says 50-50, the fight happens. If he doesn't say 50, if he wants 70-30, 60-40, or he proposes that, then Terence Crawford isn't going to accept. Terence Crawford, for me, isn't going to accept anything less than 50-50. I just think it's a matter of principle, and Crawford feels that he's achieved more, and he's not going to, I just don't think he's going to budge from that. So unless Spence accepts 50-50 with Crawford, I don't see we're going to have that fight. So it depends how much legacy, how much being undisputed means to Errol Spence. It depends, because even if Terence Crawford leaves Al Haymon, I still don't see that fight being easy to make, because I don't think it's a matter of the promoters and who they're with. Obviously, it'll make it easier if Terence Crawford becomes a free agent. The problem is, it's a matter of the split. It's a matter of what each one thinks they're worth. So it's not a matter of okay, you know, Terence Crawford comes with PBC. How is that going to make a difference if Errol Spence still believes he's the biggest star? Just because Terence Crawford comes over to PBC, that doesn't mean that his value increases, or that doesn't mean that his, you know, where he stands in boxing today increases. It doesn't. Because when they go into negotiations, they're going to look at what they've done so far. And Errol Spence doesn't believe, with the pay-per-view numbers that he's done, with the numbers that he's done, and the fighters that he's fought, he doesn't believe Terence Crawford and him should be a 50-50 fight. And he's probably got a good case now. If Errol Spence puts in a great performance against Manny Pacquiao, right, and that fight does huge numbers, then it's going to be hard for Crawford to ask for 50-50, really. Let's be honest. It's going to be hard for him to say, you know what, I deserve 50-50 with Errol Spence, because let's be honest, he won't. And I don't think he'd have a leg to stand on. But I just think Terence Crawford is he's a man of principle, and I just don't see him taking anything less than 50-50. So I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough for them to come to terms. Hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully they can come to terms, because let's be honest, it's the fight that we all want to see. It's the fight that we all want to see. We all want to see Terence Crawford v Errol Spence. I think that's the fight most majority of boxing fans want to see. But I just don't think it being realistic right now. And I personally think Errol Spence might move up if they can't make the fight. I still like to see Errol Spence fight Thurman and Crawford. If he does that and beats those guys, he would literally have cleaned out everybody at 1-5, 147. I think it would be a damn shame if him and Thurman don't fight, bearing in mind he's fought Garcia and Porter, guys that Thurman beat. So it wouldn't. I personally would like to see that fight. I think that would be a good fight. But I don't know. I just don't think Errol Spence wants to do anything with Thurman right now, and I don't see that fight happening. So yeah, it's a sad that, you know, that fight is not going to happen. But unfortunately, Thurman, Spence, you know, when Spence wanted it a couple of years ago, Thurman wasn't that interested, and now Thurman wants it, and Spence don't look that interested. He's talking about not wanting to fight Thurman. So, you know, Thurman did an interview recently with Fight Hype, and he explained what his reasoning was. I still don't think it was a valid reason, because I still think if he wanted to fight Spence, he could have fought him. And I think Spence now doesn't want to do anything with Thurman. So yeah, I can't see that fight happening. But let's see, man. Let's see if we can get this Crawford fight over the line, which we're hopeful now after hearing Spence speak. We're hopeful that fight can come to fruition. But you know, it's by no means, like I said, a done deal just because Spence is saying it, because when they come to the negotiation table, that's when it's going to be difficult for me, in my opinion, to make that fight. I think it's going to be negotiating the deal, because like I said, Spence isn't going to expect, Spence isn't, for me, going to accept 50-50, and Terence Crawford isn't going to accept anything less than 50-50. So I don't know how they're going to come to terms. Hopefully they can. Hopefully they can, and they be involved in a huge mega fight. But I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I just don't see it happening. And like I said, I do hope I'm wrong. I do hope I'm wrong, and I do hope this fight takes place. And listen, I think it's a great fight as well. It's a 50-50 fight. You know, I favor Spence slightly just because of his size, his strength. But Terence Crawford is kind of a fighter right now where we don't know what his ceiling's at. We don't know where how good he is. Now a lot of people think Terence Crawford has got a lot more facets to his game, that he's got more tools in the toolbox than Spence. But I think we haven't seen the best of Spence. I think Spence has got so many facets to his game, and he's quite underrated. His boxing ability is quite underrated. So I actually think Spence could be a problem for Terence Crawford as well. So I think Spence's boxing ability with his size, I think, might be too much for Terence Crawford. But who knows? Like I said, we don't know what Terence Crawford's ceiling, where it's at. He may be even better than what most people think, or he may not be as good as what people think because of the level of competition that he's been facing. So we need to see where he's at. We need to see how good Terence Crawford is and where his ceiling's at. And a fight with Errol Spence will definitely show that. If he can dominate and beat Errol Spence, then, you know, we're looking at an all-time great. We're looking at somebody that would have become undisputed across 2 weight classes, which is unheard of, really. So yeah, I think Terence Crawford has a great opportunity. And listen, if I was Terence Crawford, right, like, I look at it from both ways, right? I think 50-50 is going to pay Errol Spence a lot of money, but Errol Spence probably is worth more. I look at it from Terence Crawford. You take 60-40, take the smaller end of the pie, but then you think about what it does for your legacy, and 40% is probably going to pay you more than what you've ever been paid before. And it's a chance for you to be undisputed in 2 weight classes. It's a chance for you to create history. So why not? This is why I think it makes a lot of sense for both guys, but it's ego. When it's a fight of this magnitude, it's ego. It's not willing to budge. Is one of them going to be willing to budge? That's all it's going to have to take to make the fight. Because if one of them budges, the fight happens. But is one of them going to be willing to budge? I'm not so sure. And that's why I'm doubtful whether the fight happens. But I hope I'm wrong. Leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think. Smash the like button. Guys, I'm probably going to go live later on. So yeah, smash the like button. Leave your thoughts. Smash the like button across all my videos. I put up a Wilder Fury one. Watch that one. Smash the like button. And follow all my social media platforms. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.